I'm here to talk about the Casey Anthony case and what I believe happened. And if I were her lawyer, how would I do it? And if I believed her story, how I would portray it. Now, what makes me come to this understanding of what really happened in the Casey Anthony case and what I think happened uh, to Caylee is really based on the whole Zenaida Gonzalez theory. Now, when I first heard about Zenaida Gonzalez and how the media came out to find out about it, and the fact that Casey's mom heard her on the phone saying something to what she interpreted to be Zanny took the baby, I knew right away what happened. Now, unbeknownst to Casey's mom, Cindy, she doesn't understand the lingo or the talk that people Casey Anthony's age, how drug talk basically. I mean, I learned this when I was in college. Xanny is a term used for Xanax. Now, when you think Xanax, the first thing I think is relaxes you, make you kind of tired, or drug abuse. You know, usually people take it and they take alcohol, I don't know, something like that, for some kind of thrill. And I thought babysitter, and I started thinking, well, I'm not too sure. But then, there was news about the chloroform. And, Casey Anthony not being able to pay for certain things, and she was poor, she was low on money. And it started to make sense. And that's when I said to myself, wait, let me hear the whole case through. Let me listen to testimony, and then I'll talk about it. So here's what I think. I think in actuality, she was calling a friend and telling her friend that she gave Xanax to the kid and the kid ended up dying. Now, that's not really a complete story. The complete story, based on everything else, when you put the chloroform into it, was basically she was probably doing that for a while. She was giving her kid Xanax, in order to get her to sleep so she could go and do whatever she wants, because that's what Xanax does. You take it and you go to sleep if you don't wake up. Now, over time, I believe this may have gotten expensive, or she wanted it for herself, or whatnot. I don't think that she was giving her, whole pills or something like that. I think she was probably giving her parts. And the thing is about Xanax, so you take it over time, you build a tolerance. So I was thinking maybe, it got expensive for her. She didn't want to keep doing it, or she couldn't wait on Xanax to take its effects. Because if you take Xanax, it takes some time to get you tired or whatnot. So I think that's why she went to chloroform. So she either went to chloroform because it was either cheaper, she already had a pool in the backyard, she had half the ingredients that you need. It's looked up on the internet. I'm sure she was going with chloroform because it was either cheaper or she couldn't wait to put her out. So she was giving her the chloroform to knock her out cold, and the Xanax to keep her going, keep that sleep going. Because I don't know how long chloroform works for, but it's probably not long, at least on the movies. But anyways, going back to the story. So I think this is what happened. Now I'm not too sure whether or not she used to put it to her mouth. I personally believe that she probably did it like we did in science class. You put it on a cloth or some kind of cotton or not, and you let the vapors through. So I think what she did was probably using the back of the trunk as a chamber per se. I think she probably put the kid back there, and duct taped her so she couldn't sleep. I mean, she couldn't scream, and also she would be forced to breathe through her nose. I don't know. And she, poured it in there and basically closed her in there and went about her business. Now, I think that could have happened, but I think I think I don't think that could. I think that could have happened, but an alternate theory would be she gave her the chloroform. She duct taped her mouth, and she gave her the Xanax. Now the thing is that the reason why she would duct tape it is because maybe she was going somewhere and the baby was in the trunk, and in case she woke up, she won't be able to scream. Now, I think what may have happened is either she may have died from the... Hold on. Whoops, sorry. But anyway, she may have died from either puking in her mouth, because when you take Xanax, what happens is, especially on an empty stomach, so some of the side effects is vomiting. So maybe when she chloroformed her and knocked her out, she may have vomited while Casey wasn't there. So what ended up happening is the baby drowns in her own vomit. So, Casey comes back, opens up the trunk, sees that the kid, vomited, or this doesn't have to be in the trunk. It could be anywhere. Only Casey knows what happens if this is what in fact happened. But did she do it with malice? I don't know. Did she do it, purposely? Nobody knows that. Nobody's going to be able to judge that. It's it's only between her and God. But as far as if I believed her and I said this was not, purposeful, how would I have said it? I would have probably kept the drowning. I would have kept out the the sexual abuse. But I could see why he would have the sexual abuse, especially if the affair is true and so on and so forth, and Roy Kronk. But let me tell you something about Roy Kronk. Roy Kronk is just a guy, in my opinion, just an average guy. Probably, grew up in down south down here. I don't know. But that whole thing about relieving himself, the first time it was true. The second time it wasn't true. I believe the reason why he said he went to relieve himself again, especially after hearing his testimony, I really think it's just a lawyer's ploy. That he called a lawyer, and the lawyer said to say that. And the reason why the lawyer said to say that is to do with like law and a frolic as opposed to detour. Because if you do something within the scope of your employment, like if I'm an officer and I discover Casey and I'm working and it's within my scope, the police department gets the reward or don't get the reward at all. But if I'm not working or doing something that's wrong outside of the scope, then the liability falls on me. So I think really that's what happened with Roy Kronk, because peeing in public is a crime, and because it's a crime, it's outside of the scope of his employment. Therefore, if there is a reward, it would go to him. So the first time, yeah, but the second time when he came there again to relieve himself, that's not really the issue. Now, Cindy Anthony saying all the stuff about how she serves for chloroform, that's just her mom, and she's doing it beautifully. Doing all that she can because she loves her kid. And that's basically it. I would expand more, but it's already been 8 minutes, and I'm over it.